Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. The Sooners win 31-29 over UCF Knights. They're 7-0, but not all is well. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
Jay.
So we were all at the game today, some of us for the entirety of it, and I think what we saw today was a little troubling. We saw a win, so a win's a win, but honestly, a lot of things to be worried about. So let's get into that. We've got a lot of notes, maybe extensive notes. Before we talk about that, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Tobacco Exchange. They've got 3 great locations throughout the metro. As we've always said, the best pricing, selection, and staff in the entire metro area. Lucas, what are we smoking tonight?
Tonight we've got a Fuente Rare Pink Signature, and these only come out once a year if I remember correctly, and they are pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Very apropos.
The boxes are pink, and the one we're smoking is kind of based on the Hemingway line, but it's a little more bold.
Yeah, a little bold.
It's very delicious.
Very good. It's extremely good. I'm very satisfied. Unlike what happened on the field today, I wasn't so satisfied with that. The cigar is outclassing the Sooners, to be honest. But the Sooners did win. They got off to a slow start, and that was one of our fears, was a Texas hangover, and I think it was realized.
Offensively, slow start.
Offensively, a slow start. Defensively, a great start. Defensively, very strong, exceptionally strong, really strong in a way that was extra disappointing then when we couldn't capitalize on short fields. But offensively, we come out with a 3-and-out with what looked like just a really bad script of plays, including, of course, you don't script it, a bobbled, was it a direct snap to Sawchuk? Yeah. And so just out of sorts there from the get-go. Struggled, got down into not quite the red zone, but definitely within field goal range, and obviously missing a couple of field goals. Very costly. Made it a game where it didn't have to be a game, or at least it caused us to do things and play down to a level of an opponent that you really don't want to have to do it. It was the opposite of what I wanted to see. I wanted to see us come out really strong, put a lot of points on the board early, put them away, and then be able to rest some of the starters. But the starters had to play the entire game, so that's not desirable, obviously. That's not optimal. What do you guys think?
I was pretty bummed out with the how the game started as well offensively. I mean, I think we had the first 5 drives. I think we started 4 of those in UCF territory, I believe, if not right around UCF territory on all 5, and we only come away with 7 points. Steve, to what you mentioned with the missed field goals, just a lot of missed opportunities, and I think that carried over a bit from the Texas game. It was just a lot more prominent here because this game could have been 28-0 pretty early. In my opinion, and if not, I mean, at least a 2-score game within the first 3 drives. So special teams, again, continues to be a massive concern, especially in the area of field goal kicking.
Punting was a little bit better today.
It was a lot better.
Yeah.
So the
51-yard average.
Nzinga punted the whole game.
And great kick coverage,
Yep.
Getting down and stopping them with the catch.
The kickoff coverage was phenomenal.
Yep.
We got him short of 25, I think, every time today.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you saw a little bit of early, fatigue from the defense because they were on the field so much in that first quarter. I mean, the first 4 minutes of the first quarter lasted like 45 minutes. It was crazy. So definitely had the hangover effect that I think we were hoping to avoid and all predicted we would avoid. Nonetheless, come out with a win. As Brent always says, we went 1-0 this week. On to the next one. But there are a ton of improvements that have to be made if this team wants to reach the potential that it can.
I was very disappointed with the offense, obviously, like everybody else was. The defense played well to start the game, had a couple busts on passing plays and some running plays. The long 86-yard touchdown they had was one of those, you think you got the quarterback in your grasp and he just dumps it off to a guy essentially and nobody's there to cover him. He blows a kiss to the sideline, doesn't get a flag. Everybody in the 84,000 people in the stands saw him do it.
86,500 or whatever a sellout is.
Everybody saw him do it except for apparently the refs, but then they saw something in the end zone that warranted a flag. So instead of in the new rule, what was it, 2009?
Yep.
If that occurs during the play, they go back to the spot of the foul.
By
so
rule.
So the touchdown would have been taken off the board.
He did it like the
And
30-yard
30-yard
line.
You
line.
never
right?
know what happens.
And
in a game
you
with-
don't know what
with
happens.
that.
They might have thrown an
Well,
interception.
especially
Who
with
knows?
how well we have been playing
Right.
in the red zone and how well we played today in the red zone.
Yeah, we had a goal line stand today until Canuck gets a stupid penalty.
Yeah, so what happened? So I missed that. What did he do?
I guess he yelled in the
He,
face.
he stand over the guy and
Yeah.
yelled
Yeah,
at him?
and so,
So he pulled an Ethan Downs?
He pulled an Ethan Downs and actually got
And actually got called
It would have been 4th and 2, and they had 3 consecutive plays at 2 at the 1, and then they lost a yard. So then it would have been 4th and goal from the 2, and they were sending the punting team out when they threw the flag. So that's a 4-point swing right there early in
You
the game.
can't do that. That's stupid
You
on
can't.
our part.
Yeah.
But it was a great goal line stand, and I actually want to compliment him as well. Brent played strategically very smart by forcing what would have been a delay of game, but then it became a timeout that they had to take by forcing them to, but with substitutions. And he substituted like 2 units. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
He like substituted the line unit and then the backfield, and it caused them to have to call a timeout because they didn't have enough time to get the ball snapped. So that was really good, but it's all for naught when you get a penalty like we got.
And it really makes me mad, like Connor said, when you start the game out, and we were on the plus side of the field
I think it was
for the
3 and
5.
outs.
Yeah, and their punter, they were kicking into the wind, so the punter kept kicking it out around the 40, the
Horrible,
plus 40.
horrible
So
punting.
we're only 40 yards out, and we end up with 2 missed field goals.
And not
then-
even really threatening, not
Yeah.
like missed field goals from 10 yards out.
Right.
We weren't even in the red zone, I don't think, either time.
Nope, we weren't. Looking at the stats, we had missed field goal, 12 plays for 26 yards, and a missed field goal. And then we had that's the second one. The first one, 6 plays for 20 yards and a missed field goal. And the whole time you're doing this, of course, you're running hurry up, so you're only taking a minute and a half off the clock and missing a field
And making
goal.
your defense come back out
and make
there.
your defense come back out there.
And I know, Jay, you have something to add, but I think that's exactly what we're saying in the midweek was this should have been a game that you're taking advantage of those opportunities and putting teams away quickly. And we had every opportunity to do that in that first quarter especially. So it's frustrating. I do think we are a better team than what we showed in that first quarter. But at some point, if you have those chances against a team like Oklahoma State or even maybe Kansas next week in Lawrence, it's not going to be as forgiving. And, we're one not recovered onside kick away from losing the game today.
Yeah, and just to not harp on the same things that you guys have already mentioned, I'll pick on something else. This was a horrific run defensive team. And
Like 115 in the nation.
yeah,
or
I mean, just
something.
absolutely brutal. And we
Kansas
could
ran for
not
400
move the ball.
yards against them last week.
We absolutely could not run it early on whatsoever. And
There's really only one drive the whole game that we ran the ball.
they even left 2 high
Towards the end.
safeties, what was really curious is when we couldn't run is when they had 2 high safeties early in the game. And then later in the game, when they had only had 1 high safety, we somehow could run.
Well, we
so it's
changed
usually the
our
complete
blocking
opposite
scheme. We
of
changed to a zone blocking.
what you should be able to do.
And they
Yeah.
put Savion Bird in.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just I'll just say the run game it's so baffling. It's
At this
It's
far in
disturbing,
the season. It's
to be
7
honest
games
with
in the
you.
season, and we have no number 1 running back. We don't have any consistency in that position whatsoever, and it's very disturbing.
like if Tywee had played today, I think there would have been some better runs early on, but still nothing of any significance that I think would have changed much of the game itself. My only thing I would say is I'm curious to, I don't know if you can quantify it or even figure this out, but we just don't give one back enough time to get a rhythm, get a feel for the game. Sometimes you have to take the hitch, you have to see what your line is doing, you have to see what the other team is doing,
Yeah.
and
Well,
pace
we've been
yourself.
talking about that. Yeah.
And, we bring in a running back and he might block and then he comes off the field. And then you bring in a different running back and he gets a carry and he gets switched out. Just you have to have some consistency. I understand wanting to keep people fresh. Maybe somebody's better in a different situation than others, whether it's blocking or going out for a pass route.
Well, you can't be predictable that way if that's the case,
Right.
because someone else will key in on that and understand what your offensive scheme
But
is
I mean,
going to
even
be.
look at the first drive with Sawchuk. It's his first start of the first start of his career at OU, right? His second snap ever, you're having him field a direct snap in the backfield, which, given he should catch it, he's a Division I football player, but I mean,
I think it was a bad snap.
You should, but it's high and to your left, right?
It's high and to your left, and
quarterbacks are used to that.
And not only that, but like Jay, to your point, where you're not giving someone a rhythm. The next drive, we put Jaleel Farouk in there in the backfield.
I think the running
backs.
backs.
Drive after that, we put Gavin Freeman in the backfield.
Heck,
there's no rhythm whatsoever. At that
And we've been
portion.
talking about that for weeks now, saying that you've got to give somebody a chance to get a rhythm, get them a lot of carries.
Austin freaking Stogner was in the backfield with no running back on the field.
They
once.
did weird things with Stogner today. I want to talk about that, but Lucas, did you have something?
Yeah, the other thing we've been talking about, and we've harped on this for 2 seasons now under Levy, is you're playing so fast-paced that the linemen are getting tired really early on in these drives to where they're taking a snap, they're running the ball 4 yards, and then you've got the linemen trying to snap the ball within 10 more seconds. As soon as they get set, you got them.
No push.
You got them running a line. You got them running a play again, and they're not. They don't have the. I don't know. They're just not able to get set enough to fire off the ball over and over and over and over and over.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. So the Stogner thing, I want to transition into that since you bring it up, and we can definitely go back to running backs because it is a big issue for us. But I think Stogner's a big issue, and I hate to call a kid out, but it's the coaching decision to keep putting him in there and putting him in all of the different variety of plays they put him in. So in the backfield, in the slot, at one point he's wide out, and they roll him out. He's in motion as the farthest wide out. He's not going to be a threat at all. That to not be derogatory, but that's the Davis Bevel mistake of putting him out there. That is a player who cannot succeed in that position. There's no threat that he's going to represent out there on the far hash, and I'm talking about the hash against the sidelines. There's no reason to defend it, and even if you try to defend it, you easily can come off of that to do something else.
It's a wasted body.
It's a wasted body. I don't understand it. He missed a block today that was an absolute blow-up where Gabriel got destroyed by a blitz that came right at Stogner, and there was no other, as far as I remember, there was no one else assignment-wise that he had to worry about. I don't understand why he's on the field the way he is. I don't understand the theory. And if it's a problem that you think you've got an offensive line problem, for the most part, the offensive line has played really well. I really don't see the need for an extra blocker. And if you need an extra blocker, how is he the guy that you have to have? Stoops could fill that role and then put another wideout that's a deep threat or just an intermediate threat out there. To me, it's something that's a real big shortcoming that it's almost 10 against 1 at this point. It's very frustrating. And I blame Levy. For sure.
10 against 1?
10 against 11.
Okay. Making sure.
Sometimes it feels like it's
That's
one.
a new
though.
math.
Yeah.
Sometimes
It's
it feels like
all
it's
in there.
11 against 1.
10 against 1 plus the 10 that are already out there, therefore 10 against
And
11.
we've referenced that many times in the pod. You know, let's see a four wide wide receiver setup, and Stogner should not be one of the 4. You're talented enough at wide receiver. Petaway got in there early
Once.
and then he didn't get in there hardly any of the
He
rest
got
of the
like a
game.
9-yard
Got a
catch and was
9-yard
never on
gain
the
and-
field
yeah,
yet.
and
No,
then-
he was in there on another at least play or 2 that I saw, but didn't get targeted. But
How many receivers do we have catch the ball?
it just
today?
doesn't make sense that
All right,
Stogner's
6.
We had
one of the
1,
guys out
2,
there.
3. Oh, hold on. It just skipped on me for some reason.
Well, as you're looking that up, I want to talk about Dylan Gabriel because he had a bad game today. I think the lack of a deep ball was a very significant shortcoming in this game. We've talked about that throughout the season. It really came home to roost here. If you look at how fast he's checking down, I think that that's a real problem. Now, granted, the offensive line did not give him the protection he needs for the most part, but he is throwing behind receivers. He's waiting to see when they're open.
He's staring people down.
He's staring people down. He looked and he threw a ball on a free play to Anderson and almost overthrew him. He caused the interception that really he deserves credit for the interception when he waited so long to throw to Stoops coming on the crossing
Stoops was running
pattern.
across 5 yards wide
And
open with
really
his arm up,
exposed,
and then he finally throws it to him.
exposed Stoops in a way that he could have gotten injured.
Yeah, he got his wide receiver killed on
He
that
got
play.
so That's
It was
bad.
very reminiscent-esque of what we did to Texas a couple
One-
weeks ago when we blew up their tight end across the middle.
One of the best throws he's made the whole season was probably the one to Anderson on the sideline that was the second touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
He threw that on a rope about 35 yards as Anderson just ran away from his guy and was wide open, but he didn't put a bunch of air under it. It was like the perfect line.
Yeah, give him
drive
credit
throw.
on that one.
That was amazing.
Well, I
And
mean, how
then
much of the lack of the
final
deep
drive.
ball? How much of the lack of the deep ball is missing on drill?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well-
why I thought we'd see some more Brennan Thompson in there, especially when they
Honestly,
went to
though,
running one safety over the top.
It's not a speed issue. It's
Yeah.
it's a Dylan Gabriel issue. He doesn't throw the ball in time for a deep ball to be a threat. It's like he doesn't know his range.
I mean,
I
Gibson
almost
It's
think-
got
waiting too
separation
long.
today.
I almost wonder they don't even put Thompson in the game because of that. Like, by the
He'll
time
outrun
you
him.
see that Brennan Thompson's got his guy beat and you choose to throw, you have
too
to
late.
throw it 65 yards.
Right, and he can't do that.
Yeah.
And almost no one can do that. Yeah, I think that's the problem. Today
Because he
I saw
doesn't
him.
throw open players.
He doesn't throw people open.
Yep.
I saw it today again where he gets into a shell, he checks down, he doesn't see the entirety of the field. He goes to his safety valve. Thank goodness we have Drake Stoops. Drake Stoops
Yeah.
is amazing.
He's the MVP.
He is absolutely the
offense.
MVP.
He got the game ball today, I'm pretty sure.
He deserves it. He is phenomenal. And he's the safety valve, and yet Gabriel missed him at least twice wide open. One time would have been a touchdown. He missed number 6. What?
LV Bunkley Shelton.
Yeah, Sheldon. Wide
corner of
open
the
on
end
a
zone.
throwaway in
Yep.
the end zone
With a
twice.
yeah,
Twice
there's
he's
a defender
open.
not even within 20 yards of him.
And then he crosses all of them and he's wide open. It was a classic play that we've seen so many times by so many different quarterbacks here and elsewhere, where they wait and they buy time with their feet and then find that guy. He bought time with his feet and then he found the sidelines is all he found.
And the first touchdown to Anderson was not a good throw, but thankfully Anderson's got super long arms.
Yes.
And was able to reach out and
Yes.
just snatch that ball and walk in the end
that's a
zone.
great
Yep,
catch.
it was a great
Great
catch
catch.
on a wide open guy that any of us could have thrown
He had
to.
a bad throw.
So,
So
we had
that was
six,
frustrating.
We had 6 receivers catch passes, 1 tight end, and 2 running backs.
It's very concerning. As we look at the entirety of the offense, we have a lot, obviously, to complain about. Let's talk about the defense and be complimentary, I think. I'm just very happy with where we are on defense. This defense is playing, continues to play the way that we want them to. They're going up against they're about the number 3 rushing offense in the country. We hold them to 149 yards or something ridiculously below.
They had a 3.6 yards per carry today.
Which is ridiculously below their averages.
And
Just tremendous.
Close to 200 yards under their season average.
And they
in
had
total
one
offense.
55-yard run that was a busted run.
And an 80-yard pass, which was a busted pass play.
most of the passing success was busted passing situations, especially where we're threatening the quarterback, and his dump offs were great.
You've got 140 yards, give or take, on 2 plays.
And they had 397 for the game.
Yeah, or else they're looking at 250 yards of offense.
And the
They had
defense
20
is doing
first downs.
everything they need to do to put us in a position to win and win big. And the offense is not complementing that, which is very frustrating, obviously.
They were 4 of 16 on third down, which anytime you would take that.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to.
Oh, absolutely.
1 out of every 4 times they're
Absolutely.
getting a first down on
Especially
a third.
with a successful offense
And they
like
only
that.
went 1 for 1 on 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
So once you could get them in those situations, you were doing a good job. But the 2 big plays really hurt.
The one 4th down conversion was the last touchdown of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They scored.
And then the Canics shoot themselves in the foot with the penalty on the goal line stand.
And I felt like they came back and did a really good job of not, of understanding they need to calm down and do their job. I noticed and this is in contrast to prior years, it's 3rd down and we get a stop right there at the end of the game, and I know they end up giving up a late touchdown, but they don't celebrate. They know they've got a 4th down they've got to defend. And in past years, we saw celebrations as if they're going to punt from the 20-yard line with a minute to go and they're down by 3. So it was great to see that we understood the down, the distance, the time in the game, the position, very dialed in, and that goes all the way to making them take as long as they took to score a touchdown, and then stopping the 4th down conversion, the 2-point conversion, which was completely sniffed out. I don't really understand the play call. So
Looked like a
thank
double
you.
pass.
It was a double pass.
Well, I know. I don't
Right.
understand
It
why
was
you
covered.
do it.
Yeah.
Malzahn dialed up a trick play that is not going to trick anyone unless he's going to throw, which he wasn't, back across the field to somebody. We're not going to vacate a position. We had 4 guys there to completely destroy.
Yeah, they had one guy that
all
was
their
on the
option.
route, and there was 3 guys around him
In the middle,
and
and
2
then-
coming up to stop the.
And the first guy made the
passer.
tackle,
Yeah.
which is just all across the board great. So again, the defense, very complimentary for me at least. I'm very pleased with everything I saw on defense. Any other notes or things of significance you guys want to talk about? I guess Sussman played a good game, but then at the end, when for whatever reason he had to come out,
Kip Lewis came
Kip
in.
Lewis came in and played very solid. He got a 3 and out on that one, which is then gets us the ball back immediately so we can go down and score.
So I know a lot of people have talked about wanting Kip Lewis to get on the field more. The problem with that is you have to slide. So if you take Kanik off to put Kip Lewis on, you have to slide Stutzman from the Will to the Mike.
Yeah, and that's weird.
That's
Right.
out of position. But
That's
he
out
played
of
the
his
Will last
position.
year, though.
No, but you're essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul a little
Right.
bit
Yeah.
by taking him out of his best position to get somebody else on the field. And it's probably just because he's a youngster and they haven't given him 2 positions to learn yet. But
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
so when Stutz came out, you had Kanik out there, which I don't know. Kanik and Kip Lewis worries me a whole lot more than Kip Lewis and Stutzman on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some missed tackles today too. That was a little frustrating. I mean,
They're a very good team, and that's a very
Yeah.
good running back, though.
Yeah.
It is
Oh
a
no,
very
for
good
sure.
running
And,
back.
and that,
And a
that
tough
running
one to
back was
attack.
patient, and they
Yes.
set up lanes and blocks for him very well.
And their misdirection was very successful.
I felt like we got a lot of good push, and we were close to getting a bunch of sacks that
So we're
didn't
close.
come to fruition. But again, we talked about it early in the season that against SMU, against Cincinnati, that we're a step away from getting 6 sacks in a game, and instead we come away with 1 or 2. And the times that they are getting away is when they hit us on a big play.
Mm-hmm.
And so those just break your back a lot of times.
We had three sacks today.
3 sacks today. And I mean, it could have easily been 6 or 7 if we're a step closer on some plays.
And against a team that doesn't pass the ball very much. So you're really trying to stop the run primarily because that's their bread and butter. One thing that I think was pretty interesting, transitioning back to offense a little bit, we were put in a weird position at the end of the game, near the end of the game, halfway through the 4th quarter. We've got the ball back with this weird no man's land amount of time left.
Yeah.
And I thought they played it pretty well where they understood they don't know if time's on our side or not. And so they did a good job, and then they got to a position where time was definitely we needed to run clock, and they transitioned to waiting to run clock, and that was really good. So
Snapping the ball later in the
very
play clock.
complimentary of Lebby and everyone of doing a good job of making sure when they needed to run clock they did, but being aggressive and understanding we may need the ball back and this may not be successful, so we don't want to run 3 minutes off and give them the ball back in good territory. And then of course we go down and end up scoring anyway, which was great. I thought that we used timeouts effectively, so good job by Venables and crew on all of that, understanding where we needed to be and if we needed to get the ball back. I was thinking it was going to be ironic that even with our field goal kicking woes, we might win this game with a field goal. They might get the 2-point conversion and then we go down and get a field goal to win it. It made me nervous. Here's maybe how pessimistic I was getting at the end of the game. When we stopped them on the 2-point conversion, I'm worried, crap, maybe that was bad because they're going to get the onside kick, and then lo and behold, they almost got the onside kick
Had the
and
same
with
concern.
a minute left.
And we would have been kicking into the wind, too.
Yeah, we would have been kicking into the wind, a slight wind.
I want to give a shout out to the UCF fans today.
Yeah, they were loud.
They were loud, and there was a bunch of them.
What were they chanting? Were they chanting
UCF.
airball?
Yeah, it sounded like
Airball.
airball, but that's
I don't know.
the wrong
I
sport.
didn't hear that.
I don't know what it was, but they were extremely loud.
Yeah.
They punched above their weight for sure.
That's probably the best away crowd for a conference game that I can remember in forever.
A long time. I mean, except for like Oklahoma State or somebody.
Right. That's
K-State-
they're around.
was
K-State
okay,
travels well.
and they're loud as well with their stupid
But-
first
but
down
it
crowd.
seems like
If you
these-
adjust for distance from where they came from, that was amazing.
Yeah, and it seems like they were all in the same section there, and I think
Mm-hmm.
section 20 or so,
Yeah.
which would be my new section because
Yeah.
of the seat moving.
Yeah, they were in 2019 and a little bit of 21.
and they
but, yeah.
did a great job hyping their team up. I felt like
Yeah, I thought that
they
was
never got
really good.
loud when we were on offense,
No.
but their cheering when they scored and stuff was a lot louder.
If I'm going to bring up a point that I'm a little frustrated with, where I've been very pleased with most of what we've done in terms of coordination across everything, cheer squads and everything, the band were playing their music on when we were on offense a little too deep into when we're ready to snap the ball. And quite
As far
a
as
few times
audibly.
they needed to quiet down and not be playing while we're obviously doing our snap count. And so they need to work on that a little bit.
I had a note about the "Let's Go OU" chant.
God
was so forced,
bless, dude.
And the student section nailed the "Let's," but the side that was "Go," which would have been the southeast
East.
corner, was horrible. And then the OU was pretty decent, but
Why
if
do we
all
not-
four are not working, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it was the first time they tried it. I saw it online going into the game, and it was something they were going to try
Oh,
to
I
do.
didn't see that.
So it seems like that's something they want to make a tradition in between a certain quarter, maybe. But
That's stupid.
It didn't work.
It's
And
dumb.
I'm okay
we,
with it.
We have Boomer
Except
Sooner.
We have
we
Boomer Sooner.
do have Boomer
exactly.
Sooner.
It's one of the best in college football to
I
have
agree.
one side yell Boomer and
Don't
the other side
fix
yell
what
Sooner.
isn't broken.
Why would you mess with that?
Now, if you're gonna introduce a new thing, I think you got to try new stuff from time to time. Let's not introduce it on the fourth home game. Let's go ahead and try to do it on a
Yeah.
game when we're beating Arkansas State so bad that everyone doesn't care and they're going to join in. We were a little too uptight, I think, to say let's get a new cheer and
We were
learn
losing.
something new.
Yeah, we were
We were
losing.
losing the game.
And
yeah.
and when I first sat down in the seats 25 minutes till kickoff, it did not feel like a game day to me. The people, the stands were full at kickoff, but this 11 o'clock garbage again, just the whole mood. It was homecoming, but who would have known because
Yeah.
they did it, the parade the night before.
I like
But
that, actually.
It
On
just
11
really,
a.m., I like
it
it.
really just not feel like a major college football game day today.
No.
And then, I mean, we weren't flashing lights or anything exciting.
Well, we
You know,
can't.
Oh, we can't because it's 11 a.m.
Yeah, bright and sunny.
Stupid.
Well, hopefully that's going to be something of the past. As long as we're on sort of realist rants right now, I want to introduce one that we've been talking about for some time, and that is on third down, instead of making noise by clapping, distractingly waving three fingers in the air in some kind of weird waggle way. I don't understand why we're doing that. I think that it's difficult to see what's happening in terms of when you're looking through all of these fingers in the air, but more importantly, it's not making noise.
Yeah.
It is, instead of clapping or cupping your hands around your mouth to project more, you're waving your fingers like they're not seeing that. I don't know what you think you're doing. I don't know if you think you're distracting a free throw shooter in a basketball game. Again, wrong sport.
You can't
It's-
clap your three fingers?
yeah, it doesn't work. What's the sound of three fingers clapping? It's ridiculous. And when people do it, like what? We all know it's third down. Don't do that. Let's make noise.
Yeah. Cup your hands around your mouth and yell.
Very frustrating.
Whistle. Clap.
Clap.
Whatever.
Are we still on rants?
Oh, we're ranting, baby.
Okay, because it was, unseasonably hot today
Yep.
for the time of year. And I used to think the 2.5 minute TV timeouts was brutal.
Oh my God.
The 3.5 minute TV timeouts are god awful. It's atrocious.
We got to shorten the game, though, so we're not stopping the clock on first downs until inside of 2 minutes. We're not stopping on out-of-bounds plays inside of 2 minutes. But let's add 5 more
Yes,
commercials
there's
in a
no
college
way the
football game.
gameplay on the field today is what caused the game
No,
to be the length
not
it
even
was.
close.
It was
Not
100%
even close.
commercials.
It's very frustrating.
3.5 minutes in the heat, in the stadium,
At
doing
some
chants that
point-
you've done for 30 years is just too much.
At some point, when you're looking at it as an athletic director, as a university, you're putting a product on the field, you're trying to create an atmosphere, you've got to push back a little bit against TV and say, look, I understand that pays bills. I understand that brings in revenue. But we've got to find a good balance. I mean, you know what would bring in a lot of revenue? If we had like 45 minutes of commercials. We know that wouldn't work because that's too much. What we need to find is the right balance. And this amount of commercialing is just ridiculous. It's making it to where
It's painful.
it's very painful, and it's going to make it that much more desirable to stay home and be watching it on TV rather than go and endure all this in the stadium, and you got nowhere to go or nothing to do when it's 85 degrees in the bright sun and you've got a 4-minute commercial that pops up.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, at home when you're watching the game, the length of the commercials affects me 0%.
It actually is helpful to be a little
doesn't.
long.
I'll switch the channel. I'll watch a different game.
You go to the
I'll
restroom.
I'll do
you go
anything.
get a
I don't
drink.
even notice how long
I
it
could
is.
go mow my lawn. Like a lot of different things could happen.
But
in
when
those
you're
3
sitting in the
3.5
stands
minutes.
in the heat doing nothing, it is atrociously long.
Oh, thank God we don't have bleachers, because
It takes
would be
away
way worse.
It takes away home field advantage. It takes away home field desirability in terms of attending the game, and that's something they have to think about from a business standpoint. We're already struggling to get and keep people in the stands. This is something that's a real headwind to it, and yeah, I think that's a very legitimate realist rant. Any other rants? What else is on your list, guys? I know you took extensive, copious notes.
I thought it
Lucas.
was great how Chris Plank in the first game break timeout thing when he goes, "We're going to go to some big games around college football." Oh, it's Rutgers. Oh, it's Middle Tennessee State or whoever the hell
And
the
they
next one.
skipped the only big game.
The only big game is Ohio State, Penn State. Didn't mention it once in the first little set or whatever game break thing
just
that he
pathetic.
does.
Just absolutely
And they
pathetic.
cover 3 games that mean absolutely nothing, that no ranked teams are playing in.
Yeah.
But yet the game that's the biggest in the country at the time, just no mention of it whatsoever.
That is pathetic. That's really
And we've talked about it before, but when he does his score breaks, he's always behind on what the actual score is.
Yes.
Because
For
he doesn't
years.
think, oh, I can check my phone 30 seconds before I go
Right,
live.
and just give the right update.
Yeah, and give the right score.
Even if the scoreboard isn't going to show it, go ahead and give the update.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's been that for years. It's been like that.
All right. Well, let's transition back to the game because I want to talk about something Connor brought up that I think is really apropos, and that is a comparison in this narrow victory where we have to get a stop on a 2-point conversion. We win 31-29, obviously by 2 points. If we compare this to the vintage of 2018 through 2021, those Sooners, how do we feel about this team improving enough to get better versus what we saw today? Because we obviously have to get better. We saw games like that throughout the back half of the season in those years. Do we feel better about our ability to close this gap and make improvements, or are we in the same quandary that we were in past years? What do you guys think?
I feel better about it. I mean, and it's not like I feel great after what we saw today, but if I'm comparing it to those years that you mentioned in the past and kind of how I phrased it on the way back from the game, it feels a lot more in control than in the past. So, I mean, all of 2021, we're squeaking wins, and it's because of numerous reasons, mostly defensively, that we're barely winning games. We've seen this offense be productive to a point. I think there's a just massive amount of growth that has to happen for us to be a contender nationally. I think we can contend at the conference level with what we have right now, but past that, I have concerns. But to the question at hand, I do feel a lot more confident with this type of narrow victory than I would have 2 years ago.
Definitely feels like a game we would have lost before.
Yeah. And, well, that's true.
I mean, I think
thinking
our
more
offense
about,
would have
can
been
we
way
get
better before.
Can we get better? Will we learn from this, or will we, because the homer take that we would have always had and did have in the past was, yes, but we're close, it's fixable, we can get past it. That's the Lincoln Riley talk. Can we get better in November, championship November, or are we going to be faced with the same kind of stuff?
Well, I think offense is more fixable throughout the season than your defense. I think your defense is kind of what it is throughout the year, and I don't know how much better you can get. Offensively, seems like it can be game to game, scenario to scenario, and so
I think that's a really good point. And we've seen we've seen improvement and we've seen better play out of this offense. I think part of the key is for Levy to understand the tools he's got at his disposal and what he doesn't have, and play to your strengths. Get Gabriel in a comfortable position so that the offense can succeed. And I don't know what that's going to take in terms of the running game other than to get a guy into a rhythm. I think what it takes in the passing game is just some way to help him find a deep route that he's willing and able to throw. And that's something that will continue to plague us. But if it's sort of easy math, if they're going to play off of us so much to take away a deep route, then the running game should be there. And if they're going to stuff the run, the deep ball should be there. One of the two. And if they're going to play soft corners with a loaded box, then you've just got to take what you can get.
Nickel and dime.
Nickel and dime all the way up the field. And you've got a guy who can nickel and dime in Drake Stoops. You can, and the other guys too. But that's a reliable outlet right there every time. What I'd rather see, though, is run a pattern that is taking advantage of that 5 yards downfield rather than it's a bubble screen or it's a guy that you're numerous times, especially to Anderson, we were throwing this, he's covered, it's 3rd and 8, and you're throwing a 5 yard route where he's covered up. Even if he catches it, he's going to be completely swallowed. So you can't do that kind of stuff. You've just got to understand where you are down in distance and put him in a position to succeed.
Yeah, there was a play, gosh, I can't remember when. It was either third or fourth quarter, but we had stalled out offensively, and we had maybe a 3rd and 6, and Freeman runs a little quick out, 2 yards short of the sticks, and it looks like he can cut it upfield and
Just
get the first,
plastered.
and doesn't, get splashed, and we punt again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to run those routes to the sticks, to
Yeah,
the
and
markers.
Drake did that once today too on a 3rd and 10. He ran a 5 yard route.
But that's not on your wide receiver. That's on the play call.
If you're running a 5 yard short,
a Levy issue.
that's on the play call itself. If you're running it 2 yards short, it's probably on the receiver.
It's like we don't have these like 3rd and longer than medium.
Like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, we don't have.
Yeah, anything between 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 10, we don't have a package where we're like, all right, we're running these routes to make sure we get to the sticks or at least have a shot at getting to the sticks.
I mean, if you're probably going to have 3 or 4 options in terms of receiver, you want all of those to be to or past the sticks, and your one dump-off route is the only one that's short. And that should be your true 4th option, not your quick check down. So some of that's on Gabriel, and some of that's on Levy on running where, it's like, well, I'm not going to throw that ball because even if he catches it, it's not going to be for a first down. That's no good.
We had 2 drives in a row in the middle of the 3rd/late 3rd when we had 3rd and 2 and couldn't convert. And the line was super soft, not being able to push 2 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then on one running play, I think it was Major they handed it to and didn't get it, and we punted. And then another was a pass. It might have been the Freeman one. I think it was a 3rd and 2. And he just gets stuffed on at the line, essentially.
Yeah. I'm pretty much overseeing Marcus Major at this point. I mean, I know he's banged up a little bit
I
today,
don't think he has vision.
But, yeah, we saw the same
there
exact...
were 2 runs today that
saw
were
the same exact issue that we talked about in the midweek.
touchdown runs.
Where he runs towards contact as opposed to space. And
he makes a juke into contact. Just keep going.
Into 2
And to
players.
what you guys said in the midweek, you can't teach that, and obviously he doesn't have the capacity to learn it, and you can't afford that, where I do think seeing Sawchuk break that one off at the end of the game, I really hope that's a step towards, all right, this is going to be our guy, and it may be the Tawi Walker, Gavin Sawchuk show from here on out.
Which could be very strong.
I think Sawchuk is a true running back 1. I think Walker will get the nod if it's not some prolonged issue that he's going to have to deal with as the RB1. But I think Sawchuk has to be your long-term solution.
I don't put a lot of stock in the idea of confidence, but I will say if you get a guy into a rhythm and you give him a chance to see, hey, this is what it feels like to break a 60-yard run. This is what it feels like to get into the second level and just blow by a guy and go. He'll figure out, it'll click for him, wait a second, I don't have to get tackled here. Or if I do, he can barely brush tackle me and he happens to catch me with the shoestring. Rather than played as if everything is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That is not what we need to be doing. We need to be moving the ball down the field with the potential for a big play. And we look at this game with 42 yards being our longest play, and many games so far this year when it comes from, especially from the line of scrimmage play, when you take out kicking game and other things, our longest plays they leave a lot to be desired.
I mean, the Sawchuck run was our longest running back run of the season, I think.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't plus 30, was it?
I thought
It
was.
was 30 even, I think.
I don't think so.
So that ties Tyree
So it
Walker's.
matches Walker's.
Gabriel's had a longer
But great
one,
job
yeah.
by Sawchuck to run down the 1 yard line for a couple seconds to burn off there.
I don't know about that.
Well, I think he was looking.
He
back
knew there
towards
was
the- he
nobody
looking-
around him.
He was looking back.
There was
towards
a
the
guy
sideline
back there.
for direction.
There was a guy back there. I will say he didn't cover the ball up the way he should have. I did like it, except I worry, was he trying to do that, or was he looking to the sideline thinking that there's so little time left that
If
I
he
need to
should
take a
down-
knee?
Yeah.
I think he didn't know if he should score.
He
And
was
there-
looking at the sideline,
And that's a
I think.
mistake. There's clearly enough time you need to take the touchdown.
While play
No
is
doubt
being
about
played,
it.
you're looking to the sideline. So that
You
Well,
need
yeah,
to,
you're up 1 with an opportunity to go up 8.
it was a mix
Yeah.
of good and
At
bad.
the end of the game.
it's a mix of good and bad. I will say
He's
that.
young.
It's
But it was a
That's a
great run.
coachable moment.
He's
It's
young.
a coachable moment,
Yeah.
but it's a good coachable moment to be in, because it's an enviable position for sure, and so more good than bad for sure on what he's doing there.
What I find interesting with today's strength and conditioning with players, running backs back in the day never came out. You never took them off the field.
No.
They would run them.
You say back in the day, that's like 5-10 years
Yeah.
ago.
So to think that a guy can't stay in for 6 plays in a row as your running back is
I
just
know.
absurd.
They punished him. They punished him after that first drive, though. After he.
Oh, he
after
was- yeah, he was in
misses
the doghouse.
After
Oh, and
he
then
misses
dropped the
snap,
pass?
and then he drops the pass.
Yeah.
Which, again, in my opinion, pretty stupid play call. He's not getting the first down there.
Agreed.
But he got punished, and I don't like that. Like, I don't like it. So.
Yeah, I thought it was. It shows a lack of philosophy about what it takes to establish a run game. I'd love to get some truth serum in those coaches and just have them talk straight about what's going on. And if they would tell you these guys are too young, these guys are just not good enough, they're not who we want them to be. I know they're not all young, but some of them, they may say the guys that are old are just, they're lost causes. The guys that are young. Whatever it takes, you've got to figure out how to do it.
I
And
mean, say what you want about recruiting rankings and etc. We have 6 running backs on scholarship at OU. 5 of them are 4-star running backs.
yeah, for a reason.
Somebody has to be able to emerge as the guy.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right.
And today I would have said, oh, we have a patchwork offensive line, so maybe that's why the running game wasn't as good. But this is the 7th game and we haven't had a good running game.
Yeah.
So even when we've had all of our starters in, we still can't run the ball against teams that aren't that great. And then you face a team that gives up 399 to Kansas 2 weeks ago, or was it last week?
Last week.
Last week. You gave up 399 yards a week ago, and we didn't even hit the 200 mark, and some of that was from Gabriel. And it's, like I said, you can't blame the patchwork offensive line because we haven't proven it all season that we can't run. And I don't understand why, as good as Beatonbow has been for the last decade, or almost decade, what has it been? He's been here 8 years or so?
Oh, at least,
Come
yeah.
in 15?
Yeah. Yeah.
That he's not just sitting down with Levy and be like, this is what works. We need to do more of this.
Yeah.
You need to fashion your play calling around this aspect of the running
Because
game that
this
works.
is what succeeds.
Yeah. And it
So,
just doesn't seem like that's happened at all.
Let me put you guys on the spot and ask you to assign rough probability or rough attribution to 3 different aspects of why we're not running. How much of it is running back? How much of it is line? And how much of it is play calling? And I'll start by saying I think it's about 20% line. I think it's about 20% play calling. And I think it's about 60% running back.
I think it's probably
And I'm
I'd
including
lean more
in
towards
running
play calling.
And when I
as
say running
in-
back, I mean
as in
including
overall
the choice of a coach to not play one guy to get him into rhythm.
I'd say play calling in terms of the design of the run play itself in its entirety.
That's your majority?
That would be my majority.
I would say it's 40% that, it's 40% line and 20% running back. I I don't, like Jay said, you've got 6 guys on scholarship, 4 of them are 4
So
stars.
you're opposite of me. Yeah.
I think those guys, and not that we keep signaling this one game against Florida State, but Sawchuck and Barnes looked fantastic. Major has had his spots occasionally, but not anything major, no pun intended. But, I mean, it's crazy to me that in that final drive, we were opening holes, huge holes in the middle of the offense, where essentially the center was going one way with one of the guards and the other guard was blocking the other way, right down the middle of the offensive line, because I can see it from my end zone seats. And you could have driven a small car, maybe like a Yugo, if old school people remember those, or a Geo Metro.
Those didn't drive
But
so well.
you
though.
could drive straight through those lines. They were so big, and it was literally just one drive of the game that was like that.
Yeah.
Everything else seemed like it was a huge chore to
Struggle.
get 4 yards.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Because the line
And
had
there-
no push.
and there's what's
But again, it's
crazy-
also the fast pace. When you're asking 320-pound guys to push 3 or 4 yards, get up and set themselves in 7 or 8 seconds, and then do it again, and then set themselves and do it again, it's not a recipe for
So
success.
we're different,
It's
but not as different as I think it sounds like, because I'm saying that part of it is the fact that we are not running with a consistent running back. But I do think it's our running back weakness that is the dominant factor.
I think.
But
I think running
I think
backs
it's scheme.
have had trouble after they've gotten through the line of making the right decision on where to cut to really extend a run. But I don't feel like they're just absolutely missing the initial holes at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
They're
Like,
missing it after
it's not-
5 yards
yeah,
if they
they're
get
getting-
that point.
They're getting
a
past it,
couple times they are.
and then you're like, well, why didn't he cut
No, a few-
right?
a few
Yeah, but if we're
times it's
talking
left
4 or
or
5
right.
times a game, as opposed to we ran the ball 30
And
times.
I think that's rhythm.
That's,
I think that's rhythm.
That's a completely different
So
story.
I'm blaming them for not having the rhythm of being in there. I think if you give a guy 15, 20 carries, he's going to figure out left, right. He's going to figure it out every time. So I'm not blaming the player as much as I'm blaming the coach for not giving that guy the opportunity to learn what's going on. So I think we're both on the same side in terms of we think coaching is the dominant problem here. But I think line, I guess I'm very favorable to the scheme where they're zone blocking and they're finding success, which is the coach's fault of not figuring out what to
that's
do.
the least amount of blocking we do is the zone blocking on the front.
Yeah. What do you think, Connor?
I think I would say it's 40% play calling, 30% running back, 30% line. I'll give the line and the running backs pretty equal weight there. It's just, I don't know, I boil back down to we're seeing so many limitations in play calling, I think. And I think we saw, I mean, we looked so disjointed today. Not even just in the running game, but just offensively as a whole. And it's unfortunate when I feel like we have that momentum, and we had some, especially you go back to that last drive, and we've been saying all year, take what you can get offensively. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that, and I think there's a lot of stubbornness on Jeff Levy's side where he tries to force a game plan, and then when it doesn't work, he refuses to deviate. And he should have seen today I thought Dylan Gabriel looked really uncomfortable today a lot. Mm-hmm. And he got hit a couple times, and I think that may have played a part in it. But at that point, start giving him some of those easy little hook routes or some. I mean, we've said it. I've said it. Everything today looked difficult for us offensively.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rhythm.
Nothing was coming easy. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. The rhythm part is tough, and I want to see some consistency there because today it was just a complete disjointed offense, and it was very reminiscent of the SMU game, the Cincinnati game, and we can't keep doing that if we want to have this undefeated regular season that we're all expecting we should have.
So that's an interesting transition point, because UCF is not the most difficult, probably not the most difficult opponent we're going to face
Defensively,
in
absolutely
these 6
not.
games, and so that's worrisome. So we've got Oklahoma State, who's doing great, just like Connor predicted early on the pod that Gundy would have his stuff together. We've got Kansas, who's going to give us trouble, especially if Jalen Daniels is back, and supposedly he's back next week.
That'll be our luck. Yeah.
That'll be our luck.
It's the I was just checking my phone. It's the big noon kickoff. So their pregame, the Fox pregame show is going to be in Lawrence. Looks like.
Okay. So we've got
All you lucky listeners at home get to listen to Gus Johnson lose his mind every time Kansas scores.
And Joel Klatt.
so you've got at BYU, which BYU was winning really big against Texas Tech last I looked. You've got a lot of difficult games ahead. My question is, what we saw today, is this actually who we are? And this is actually a question you brought up on the walk home, Connor, so I'm stealing your question. So as we look at a game like against Texas, where we actually obviously had difficulties and struggle, and we pull out the victory, we look at some lesser opponents like SMU, where we struggle at times. Is this more indicative of who we are, and are we flying a little bit above our true ceiling, where this shows us that we can lose any game on our schedule? We're talking about playoff contention, and it's definitely in the mix, but at the same time, it's very volatile, it's very sensitive. We could lose a couple of games and be out of the mix very quickly. Texas today, a team that is obviously very good, and we barely beat, struggles against Houston. Houston's not a good football team, and they struggled against Houston.
And they could have lost if the ref had
If
screwed up
the referee wouldn't have screwed up the spot. That's just a horrific
third and
officiating in this horrific officiating conference. So is this who we are? Is this the team that we're going to have to get used to? Is this going to be a tough 5-game stretch that we're looking forward to here? Or are we going to get our stuff together, and are we going to be able to pull it together? What do you guys think?
I think it is. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things where after what we saw today, I think we're one step away from being that consistent team that we were talking about on the pod on the midweek. Is we saw Michigan go out today, given against a very, very, very depleted Michigan State, a down Michigan State team, and they're dominating. But
One of my locks of the week.
lock of the week,
Maybe
yeah,
the
exactly,
only one I'll
and
win.
for a good reason apparently. I think we are a step away from being that team who puts away in what I think are much lesser opponents. I mean, yeah, we can talk about the UCF stats and what they rank nationally from a rushing perspective and even offensively. But until we can figure out ways to move the ball and consistently score points, our defense is only going to hold up for so long. I mean, this was the point, we were inches away from the breaking point today, and luckily we didn't see it happen. But you keep playing with fire in that way, we have a big enough target on our back. Everyone's going to be up to play against us because we are Oklahoma, and it's going to come back to bite us one day when one of these teams decides they want to have a career day. So anyways, I do think, Steve, to your question, this may be and maybe is the team that we have to look at going forward. It is going to be a tough 5 games.
What do you guys think? Tough 5 games?
This definitely brings down the momentum I felt like we had after Texas. And we talked about, was this team going to get a big head, being on national media and all that. But you would have thought with the bye week that it would have settled all that down and we would have focused. And it clearly to me did not look like we were focused today. It definitely brings into contention a couple more losses out there. If we play like today, again, if we play like we did today against Kansas, I don't think we win that game. Because Kansas has shown that they can move the ball.
On paper, yeah, we wouldn't win.
I mean, on
We
paper.
cannot play like we played today
Nope.
and expect to win 5 games.
We could probably beat West Virginia. We'll struggle against Kansas, struggle OSU. They've got the running game going crazy.
Ugh.
Ollie Gordon had 250 yards and 4 touchdowns today. That guy looks like Derrick Henry out there running around. TCU looks, man. Last I looked, Kansas State was handling them pretty.
That's our easiest game.
They're
right
hit
now.
or
easily.
miss.
Yeah.
They are so volatile. That's a trap game, actually, I think. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the consistency that we've all talked about just isn't there. Your defense comes out, is playing lights out in the first quarter, and your offense just sputters.
Yeah.
And you just can't have that. This game very easily could have been over right out the get-go.
Yeah.
Right out the get-go. And just you let teams hang around, and you can always lose multiple games. You're going to let people hang around.
I
Yeah.
definitely had that we're letting them hang around feeling.
Jay and I
almost
said it in the
texted
middle
to
of the
group,
first quarter. Said, I mean, we're
It's-
completely letting them stay in this game. And
which
we did.
that's the third game we've had where we let a lesser opponent hang around. Cincinnati, SMU, and now UCF.
And what's
Eventually
irritating
that
is
catches up to you.
it seems like the coaches or the team will get pissed off at this, and then we'll come out and play really, really good against Kansas.
Right.
Like they get all ticked off that Cincinnati wasn't very good. So what do? Come out, we light up an Iowa State defense that's given us trouble for years and years and years.
It might be the third best team in the conference.
Yeah, and then did pretty good against Texas, and then we really faltered today. It honestly was a pretty poor performance.
I'm just concerned.
offensively
We
today.
just don't see any sort of. We don't see steps forward in the offense. I mean, it's crazy the leap we've seen in the defense.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing the same thing in the offense. I mean, from a homer take, this is a game we lose last year, and this is a game that I think in the past I would have said we're down. We're down what?
Well, that's because we
6
don't
points?
hold them under 30
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
last year. or
Yeah,
whatever.
true. I mean, and we're down 6 points going to the fourth, and even today I felt like, oh, this has all the makings. It felt like one of those old Kansas State games where we just could not figure it out, and to get past the point of coming back. To the team's credit, they did that, and I think that shows some sort of resilience that we may have been lacking in the past. But it has to just. It all boils down to that consistency, Jay, that you just mentioned, and we'll see if we can find that, I guess.
It really makes me mad on behalf of the defense how pathetic we were on offense the first quarter, because the defense comes out, stops them on the opening drive. We get the ball at the 40, nothing. Defense comes out again, stops them. We get the ball at the 45, at the plus 45, nothing.
I don't think they got a first down until like their fourth drive.
And it just happens so many times, and then you miss the 2 field goals, which I would have had a lot less stress in my life if we would have made both those field goals, because coming to the end of the game, when we were down 17-14 at one
difference in the
point.
game.
Yeah, it's a difference in the game. If you make those 2 field goals, that the onside kick never happens more than likely. And you're not stressing over them getting the ball back and going with a chance to win the game. And you can't do that against better teams.
No.
And there are better teams on our schedule than UCF.
So let's go through predictions. Let's talk about where we think we're going to be here from here on out. We're 7-0. What do you guys think the regular season will bring? Any changes or updates to your predictions?
I think I was at 10-2 last time. I'm going to stick with that.
Were you at 10-2 or 11?
Did I go 11-1?
Why is that 10-2?
Well,
No.
I'm at 10-2 regardless of what I was.
No,
last
you were
time.
at 11-1.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're moving
not
down
anymore.
to 10-2.
10-2. With 5 games left on the schedule.
Connor, what do you think?
I'll say 11-1. I mean, after what we saw today, I don't think it's at all outside of the realm of possibility that we'll drop a game, especially somewhere along the lines of a tough game in Stillwater, a tough game in Lawrence, and a tough game in Provo. So, yeah, I would say 11-1.
Jay?
Yeah, there's definitely one game that we're going to drop, playing the way that we're playing. You just can't mess with fire the way that we're doing it. I'll stay optimistic and say it's just the one, only because once November gets here and maybe the mindset of the team or the attitude of the team starts to shift and you start to really see what's on the horizon, what you're capable of getting yourself into.
They should have thought that after we beat Texas.
Yeah, I guess.
But are you talking about Championship November? Is that still a thing with the new coaching
Not after
staff?
last year.
Okay.
No, but just, I don't know. A loss can
Last year was like death by 1,000 cuts November. It was.
also
wanna throw
open your
myself
eyes
off
quite
a
a
little
bit too.
I'm not. Maybe another homer take, but I'm hoping the fact that we don't have another bye week is hoping we just have that focus that you mentioned earlier, Jay, and I hope it's something where we can develop some consistency around that. We all said it. We all said it after the Texas game. Is there was a lot of publicity, which rightfully so, a lot of celebrating, not only amongst the fan base but amongst the team, and hopefully we can use this as more of a battle cry. I mean, I think the film sessions tomorrow are going to be pretty rough,
Oh yeah, there's so much
in all of the position groups, even defensively. So
there's so much to get on to the players about,
yeah.
and how much to get better on. It's not even funny.
we'll see how they respond.
Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to have to be a bit realistic and say 11-1 is the most probable right now. If based on everything I've seen, you've got a loss on your schedule. You've got to figure out how to get there, and you've got more difficult opponents on the schedule, obviously on paper, but also with the volatility that if you don't show up against any of these teams, you can lose. Any one of them. If you can almost lose to UCF at home, you can almost lose to anybody that's out there. And it gives me then additional concern about who we might face in the Big 12 title game. I don't want a rematch against Texas, to be quite frank. Although that might be the type of team we take serious enough that we go out and can prepare for them properly and beat them. At the same time, they've got enough talent on the field that they can capitalize, if they do it right, on your mistakes and your shortcomings, and all of a sudden you're down 17 points against
that's
them.
a really interesting take that I haven't really considered. I also don't want to play Texas just because I think you never really want to play the other most talented team in your league.
Right.
But you might be onto something to where that will get your attention and that will get your best effort.
Bring your best.
To bring of anything else. At least it's your best effort.
Right.
Might not be your best game,
Right.
your best performance, but your effort and attention will be there for that game.
God, I just
So-
hope we don't have to get to a point where we're talking about effort and preparation and stuff again. I mean, that's a very, I know we are after today, but I mean, it's a very
There's only 12 games.
It's a very regressive step, though. I mean,
We've
if we're
always said that, though.
This
I know,
this
but
isn't.
But
162 baseball
games.
games.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't 82 NBA games.
You
This is
can't
12
be
football games that you
nationally
have to be
competitive.
focused for.
You can't be
Yeah,
nationally
but we're
competitive
not
if you're
the
not giving
only
out your
team
best
that
effort.
has to deal with this. I mean, the words that Nick Saban chooses on his press conferences and stuff is the same reason. It is hard to get your team ready to go for every single game. To us, old men who would give up everything in the world to be on that football field doing what they're due, it sounds really, really easy for us to give 120% all the time.
Well, I don't know if it boils down to the players' effort more so than it does the coaches. I mean,
I think it's everything. I think you're right. I think it's coaches as well. That's probably something that's underappreciated, is that coaches have to get up for the games. Coaches have to get up for preparation and looking at film and seeing nuances. You know, if you're playing Texas,
and adjusting.
you're looking for everything possible and the adjustments, and you're thinking, when you're playing UCF, you're thinking, I don't have to think that deep. I don't have to think to the third derivative.
I'll go a little
and
bit
figure out what's going on.
A little bit off topic to a certain degree. A lot of fans and stuff talk about, oh man, UCF had 2 weeks to prepare for this. They're going to bring out all kind of new wrinkles, and we're going to have to get ready for it, and things we haven't seen. Well, did they not have to worry about that with us? Do we
Right.
just line up and do what we do? And
Right. What did we spend 2
What
weeks
did we
doing?
spend 2 weeks preparing for UCF?
Hopefully
to do?
not partying.
To show stuff that they haven't seen.
Right.
Because there wasn't anything today
Nope.
that we did offensively that they weren't ready for.
They didn't have 2 weeks off. They played Kansas last week. We had the bye. They didn't.
No, but
No,
like,
they had a
can't,
bye.
well, like,
They had a bye last week.
Yeah,
You're
it-
saying Kansas going into the Kansas game.
No,
and
UCF was
didn't-
off, too.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago is when
Oh, that was 2
UCF.
yeah,
weeks ago.
UCF was
Yeah,
off,
yeah,
and
UCF was off.
Kansas is off.
Yeah.
Well, a guy like Malzahn, though, that guy, I mean, when he was at Auburn, he was very creative. At UCF, he's been very creative. So you know that he's going to, and they did bust some stuff out that we probably hadn't seen on film.
Yeah, but what did we? But what I'm saying
We
is,
didn't.
what did we do?
We
that
don't have a
UCF
creative
hasn't
offensive
seen
coordinator.
on
How
film?
many times are we going to talk about that?
Well, and I think we do have I think we have two
Oh no, wait, we
creative.
put Stogner in the backfield.
Yeah.
God.
I think we have too creative. I think he tries too
overcoaches.
much
Yeah,
gimmicky
he
stuff,
overcoaches.
too much goofy stuff. He was trying stuff today, especially early, that was not necessary.
He sucks at his job.
Just go out and do bread and butter. I don't know about sucks at his job. I'm going to stop at that. I'm going to
Nope.
I'm not ready to get there. I think that he is probably above average. And maybe exceptionally above average. It just takes exceptionally above average talent, and we don't necessarily have that at every position. We highlight a couple where I think we've got an above average quarterback. I think we've got a very below average tight end.
We have above average wide receivers.
We have above average wide receivers. We have below average running backs. I think we have above average line play. So it's difficult to say, but it's definitely something that is worth considering. What you're bringing out, Lucas, it is a concern for sure. What do we think going into Kansas? We'll obviously have a midweek pod where we'll talk about it in more depth, but we have our next test. We're 7-0. What do we think about the Kansas game coming up? Just brief thoughts. We're going to be there.
Deeply concerned.
Deeply concerned?
Yes.
What do you guys think? Deeply concerned?
I think
No.
Leipold's a great coach.
Slightly concerned.
Definitely concerned.
I would say...
I've seen Jeff Lebby coach this team for 20 games now, and I think he's had 2 good games out of 20 as an offensive coordinator, and I don't know what anybody sees in him. And I'll stand by that until he proves me otherwise.
What do we
Are
think that game opens up at? 8.5?
I don't know how it could be. I think it's probably 6.5.
Less than a touchdown is that's
Yep.
critical. That's a pretty good guess. I'd say I'll take 6.5. That's probably a good number. And that should be a wake-up call right there to realize that if you're that tight. I don't know. Boy, I don't know. Jalen Daniels is a big variable there. If he's playing, I think 6.5. If he's not, it's probably more likely the 8.5 or 9.
Yeah, but their backup has 20 starts for Kansas.
Yeah, but he's not
a
good.
bum.
Bean is not that good. I don't know.
He's good enough.
He's good enough.
He's good enough. It just depends on what
He's as
happens.
good as the UCF kid was tonight.
So, at this point, I could see us coming out and handling them with no trouble, and that would not be surprising to me. I could see us struggling and even losing. That wouldn't be surprising to me.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't.
I
Be surprised
don't know
by
what
any
to
outcome.
expect. Either thing could happen for sure.
I'd be surprised if we put up 50 on him. That would be what surprised me.
Yeah, that would be surprising. Well, we're actually going to be at the game, at least some of us. That's going to be exciting and fun. We'll come back with a lot of, obviously, post-game takes on that. We're going to have a midweek pod where we'll preview it in depth. One last word out to Tobacco Exchange, our sponsor for the post-games. They do a great job. Go check them out, 3 metro locations. Anything else to talk about today? Sooners win.
We're 7-0,
Sooners
guys.
win. We're
We are
7-0.
7-0.
Let's be happy.
Yeah.
7-0.
We're 7-0.
Fixable, but really in good shape. Really in good shape. We are the stars of the conference. We're ranked 6th. Do we think? Last question. Do you think we'll go up in the rankings?
No.
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 You mean like fall in the rankings?
No, improve. Will we
No.
improve?
It depends on
We
if Florida,
fell
if
last
Florida State
week.
loses
Okay, yeah, Florida
this
State.
game.
Florida
Well,
State-
Penn State lost in front of us.
Penn State lost, and
Florida State's on the
Florida
ropes.
State's about. I think we're going to go up, guys. I think we're going to go up.
That'd be sad.
We have to go up. We
They
have to
they
go
need to
up.
start ranking JMU because they are elite.
They're ranked, aren't they? Like 23rd or something.
Nope, they were unranked. They got 70 votes, but they were
Ugh.
26.
JMU is the most Lucas Swindler team.
They have not
In the
played
world.
anyone. They're not good at football.
They are good. Air Force is good too.
Air Force is pretty good.
They beat Navy by 11 and scored 17 points.
Don't
Yeah.
be mad because you lost your lock.
I'm a little mad about that, but Air Force is not.
Air Force is not
elite.
that good. They're not elite.
They're undefeated.
Air Force
just
is
like
not
we
elite.
are.
You know,
I
that's-
respect
we're
them.
undefeated.
I
That's
respect
right.
them from a military perspective.
We're 7.
We have one victory on our schedule better than their victories. That's probably
No,
Oh my
no,
God,
no
Lucas.
way.
Please let's
no.
not start that.
That's not even close. Well, we're 7-0. Obviously, we've got a lot of disagreement going on about how good we are because we don't know, and we're still discovering it. We're going to be back for the post-game pod. Until then, Boomer.
Sooner.